Welcome to Denver Theory Lab.
Denver Theory Lab? Okay.
Denver Theory Lab. Let's do it.
Welcome to Denver Theory Lab. This is Jesse.
And this is Kyle.
What are we talking about today, sir?
Well, we've got a few things on the list for today. A little follow-up from some of our discussions last week about, acoustic levitation and all the cool things to do with sound and the science of sound. Got a little bit of Epstein on the list, but not Epstein's list. And Stargates, pyramids, just a lot of fun topics to do, to explore and learn more today.
Here at Denver Theory Lab, we aim to investigate and explore theoretical and practical ideas, conspiracies, events, and practices from an objective point of view to expand our range of thinking. So, one of the interesting things that I saw, we usually have some sort of short conversation about Epstein and all the crazy shit that's going on there. And I found an interesting link to the Clintons. I don't know if you reviewed that at all, but there's a Clinton list that I posted. And it has to do with Epstein was on their list.
Yeah, that was one Instagram had their walls up high on. A lot of stuff they'll let you look at without an account.
So strange coincidence. A total of 57 people from Hillary and Bill Clinton's inner circle have died in a strange circumstance in the last 30 years. 15 of them committed suicide, including billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. 8 died in car plane crashes, and 14 were killed under mysterious circumstances. All of the victims on the Clinton list had information that could potentially ruin the couple's careers.
Are they powerful enough to take out somebody like Epstein, though? I mean, I definitely think the Clintons have got to be responsible for at least a portion of these people who have died around them, because nobody has this many people just drop dead, commit suicide around them, in life. But Epstein would be a big one, for them to be able to have that sort of reach to take him out, but it would...
Well, they've both been in politics for a long time.
A really long time.
I imagine you wouldn't flaunt your power if you know how to use it. So I think it's very possible, especially, I don't believe in coincidence, really. I think everything happens for some sort of reason or cause and effect. So...
Well, do you know about that, the portrait that Epstein had on this island down there in the Caribbean of Bill Clinton?
No.
It's quite a portrait, and I would say it would be enough reason to maybe have some animosity between them. And it's this painting of Bill Clinton in a dress, and he's
looks like a deep fake, of course, but.
Yeah, but that's
still cute.
That's what he supposedly had there on his island. He had a painting of Bill Clinton. There's a painting of George W. Bush as well that he had there. But
in a dress? Both of them in a dress?
No. The painting of Bush and W. Bush is of him playing with a paper airplane.
Oh, yeah,
and he just knocked over. There's 2 towers of blocks, and both towers have been knocked down.
There's right. He was in office when the Twin Towers fell.
Yeah. I mean, both paintings or portraits kind of give me the vibe of just like, don't forget who owns you, Because if you're a president, you show up at someone's island and they got this sort of portrait of painting of you, it's not very becoming,
Not super respectful. No.
Not very respectful at all. So, hey, maybe that painting of him in a dress is why the Clintons wanted to take him out. or at
I
least,
think it runs a little deeper than that.
yeah, probably the
you
dirt.
know, it was a good little fuck you by Epstein. It looks like.
Oh yeah, probably all the dirt they had on them, and they wanted to take them out. Did you see they moved Ghislaine? She's in Texas now.
Oh, so she can, quote unquote, commit suicide due to
That's the speculation.
overwhelming disparity.
That's the speculation. You know, I
Just
wouldn't be
like Epstein
surprised
did?
if wouldn't be surprised if we hear that she gets real depressed when she hears that Trump denied that pardon request. You know, they got her moved to a prison where now she's going to be around others. I think it's an all women prison, and she's got a commissary and all these things. But
Well,
yeah,
some of the things I was hearing was that they're not going to give her immunity, and they were going to wait until after the rest of the deposition happened, and it was going to be practically off the record, but it was still going to be a statement. But I feel like the whole Epstein scandal is a distraction or a front for something else that was going on that was much deeper, and the human trafficking was just the surface level sort of illegal activity that was going on. So I kind of wonder what Ghislaine might actually have to say on record about what was actually going on and who was really involved.
it does seem overly simplistic to think that the world's elite just get together for their group pedophile parties or the group rape parties. You would think that if you get people of this caliber together, and getting them together in a secret way, that you're doing more than that. I would agree with you that that's probably just one thing that was going on there, but what else is going on there? And is this the thing that they would rather us focus on and think that they were up to? If this is what they would rather us think they're up to, how bad is what you're really up to?
Right.
You know? I know we were looking at some of the portraits of, or not the portraits, the pictures taken inside Epstein's house, and looking at that, it definitely appears that he was into more than just sex parties. There's these two columns in the house, and I did a little digging to try to figure out what these columns could mean. One of the columns looks like a normal column, and the other one looks like
It's a spiral.
it's spiraled and kind of gnarled, and then
It was intentionally different.
most definitely intentionally different. And up above it, they have a painting. There's a special name for a painting when it's on the ceiling, but this mural, I think, could be forgetting the right word for it, but a mural on the ceiling showing all the constellations. So seems like he's at least somewhat into astrology, and the meaning behind these columns, it could have multiple meanings, but one of the most basic meanings it could have is if he was practicing some Masonic beliefs, or if he practices Kabbalah. The meaning there, I asked the all-knowing ChatGPT to give me some insight of what this could mean. And in Masonic and Kabbalistic symbolism, two columns or pillars guard the entrance to sacred knowledge. So there's Yakin, which is Jachin, which stands for establishment and mercy, and I could be mispronouncing this, but Boaz, Boaz, Boaz,
Which is a biblical name.
Well, makes sense.
I don't know if it's biblical reference, but that's a biblical name.
Definitely some Old Testament there, which stands for strength and severity. So, however, ChatGPT says, however, one column being twisted could suggest a perversion or corruption of this tradition, as if one pillar of wisdom has been warped. And, given what they are accused of doing down there on that island, definitely got some perversion. But, I mean, was this perversion that they were into so much of a part of whatever it is they're doing, that they have established some Kabbalistic or Freemason-like organization where this is an organized ritualistic practice that they're doing?
I don't know. I've got some pictures I found on Reddit that is supposedly this is Little St. James, and written on one of their chalkboards. It's some scribble. Some of the words show power, deception. Some of it's hard to make out. Plants, truth, really, truth, rally, or really, music box.
And we got appears underlined with an exclamation mark.
Yeah, appears. Dank brain. I don't know. I mean, it could just be somebody in a drunken stupor writing something on the wall. There's some other artifacts there that I couldn't tell you anything about. Looks like a whip. Music box. Some interesting sculptures.
Looks like an angel doing ballet. Now
Yeah.
that's an interesting one. That he had in his living room, right?
A picture of a baby taking a bath in the sink.
It's a naked baby. He had this big picture in his living room of a naked baby in a sink, holding, who
like
knows what.
Rattle or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be a very old picture.
He's got a bunch of people on speed dial.
Here's the picture of the pillars in the room. Those two pillars are holding up basically a bookshelf, it looks like. So maybe that is the entrance to knowledge, like you were talking about.
Yeah. Knowledge rests on the bookshelf. So, one thing I want to point out here, and I'm sure this will tie into some of our other conversation today, is when looking up what this room was used for, this room with the columns and the mural of the constellations on the ceiling, apparently the contractors who did work on his house for him, they thought this was a music room. So they thought that,
Is that the weird structure that's got blue and white stripes on the outside of it?
The so-called temple.
It's like a outbuilding, but it looks like a temple from the outside.
Yep. And this room in particular, they thought this was just a music room, the contractors who built it. So that leads me to wonder if was there some sort of special acoustic design built into this room, soundproofing of the walls? And, given what they were doing there, who knows why you might want soundproofing. You might be trying to get the acoustics just right to play music, or you might just be trying to keep the sound from getting out.
Yeah. There was a number of, I guess that's one of many properties that he had all across, I don't know how far it spanned really.
New York, there was one in the Southwest, and then the
New Mexico, Zorro Ranch.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we know about. But I think Little St. John's is the most mysterious.
And, I think the room with the mural of the constellations and these columns that seem to show that Epstein was into some sort of occult practices, something that's not your traditional religion. I think that tells us so much about who this person was and what their organization was, because when we try to look at them from a viewpoint of examining like you would a regular person, he seemingly got his money from nowhere. He had no formal education. He wasn't good when he was in school to justify the spots he got at different businesses and firms. There was never any real reason for Les Wexner to sign over all of his assets and give Jeffrey Epstein the biggest house in New York City. So, I think we got to look at it as what were these associations that allowed him to get that sort of wealth. And I think
my best guess would be he's excellent at blackmail.
Yeah. Well, there's some people who think he was a freelancer. Some people who think he was a freelancer who would just go do blackmail, get his dirt, and sell it to the CIA, Mossad, or French intelligence, whoever would pay.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
I'm inclined to think saying he's a free agent is just letting whatever country he was really working for off the hook. And to me, all signs point to Israel with Jeffrey Epstein. You know, his the people who gave him the most were big time Zionists, and he married Ghislaine Maxwell, and her father was most definitely in the Mossad. He had former Israeli prime minister show up to his funeral, and he had a mysterious death too. Went out on a boat one day and, had a horrible accident.
so follow up on some of our previous topics. Where do you want to start? So acoustic levitation, which I wholeheartedly believe in. There's
Well, it's proven, right?
right. This guy named Leedskalnin, Leedskalnin, supposedly built the Coral Castle with his own hands and moved these massive stones to the same precision that rivals the Giza pyramids.
Down in Florida.
And when asked about it, he would respond as, "I'm a master at," oh God, I don't want to misquote it.
I think I heard once that he responded saying he knew the secrets of how the pyramids were built.
That's one of them.
And wasn't this guy super secretive with how he built it? He said, let's see. He responded by saying he understood the laws of weight and leverage, and that he had discovered the secrets of the pyramids.
Yeah.
Weight and leverage, that just sounds like a crane, but it's got to be more than
Well,
weight and
I've seen
leverage.
videos of somebody moving a square stone over several hundred feet, but it was over a course of other stones that were rounded, but each stone would have to fit perfectly and would have to be cut to the same size, and then you'd have to move these other series of stones to get to move it to the next position. And it didn't make sense that they built an entire pyramid that way, because it was more work than it was worth than just rolling it across some logs like we've seen in pictures before.
Right.
But acoustic levitation helps to solve some of those mysteries, because this guy built this castle in a number of years, not decades. And somehow he cut all these stones as well himself, and it's just this mystery and a wonderful piece of history that leads us to believe that acoustic levitation is much more powerful than what we're led to believe already.
Well, maybe not just levitation, but for him to cut all these stones and get them cut exactly the way he wanted them to, and I mean, if you look at this, it's just incredible. He's got this giant megalithic stone underneath the other stones, sitting like a revolving door that you can move, and it's like, how did this one skinny old man manage to do that? But it says he worked under the cover of night, so he didn't want people to see him doing it.
Yeah, yeah. If you got secrets, you don't want people to see them, right?
I suppose, but there's lots of people who invent things and they want to show off what they've done. So if you've figured out some revolutionary construction method to allow one person to make a megalithic structures, wouldn't that be something you want to share with humanity? What do you think was the reason he would want to be so secretive about this?
Because they'd want to know where he got the knowledge.
Well, I mean, when you built the castle, it's obvious you got the knowledge, right?
Maybe he made a promise to somebody that
he would never share it.
He would never share where he got the knowledge from.
I think he had to. I think you're right. He had to tell someone he would never talk, because if you built the castle, people are going to know. It's obvious that you know something others don't.
Mm-hmm. And then you just let him speculate on
how he did it.
how he did it, and then just kind of disappear.
So I mean, that would seem to imply there's a group out there who has access to this knowledge. They know about it, and they are intentionally keeping it hidden.
Maybe he's one of the Masons. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think the Masons span quite large, and for whatever reason, they keep a lot of their knowledge at a quiet, sacred value, and maybe that's nefarious, and
Maybe not.
maybe not. Maybe it's for everybody's well-being that they keep their sacred knowledge.
I definitely want to believe that. Sometimes when I think about groups that keep hidden knowledge like that, I examine things through the lens of, well, look at the state of the world, and sometimes it doesn't seem like it's ran by people who have humanity's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we all, as humans, can be guilty of behaving in ways that don't have humanity's best interests at heart. So maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I'm sure we've got to have some forces of good there too.
So what about Stargates? We talked about Stargates and portals across the universe or different points on the Earth to travel instantaneously.
There seems to be claims of them in a few spots.
Yeah, I saw a post that claims that they've been found in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, and Egypt, which is only Middle East. But I would feel like it spans the entire globe, because why would you keep it so localized if you have that sort of power?
You would think,
or
right?
Technology, right? Like, why not go to the opposite side of the world or the opposite side of the universe? Or
so for our listeners, I think we should. And part of this is of course speculative, but I think we should try to define when we say Stargate, what are we envisioning? Because there's
just
the
like
show,
in the movie.
movie.
I would think.
Yeah. Well, in the movie, that's I'm glad you pointed that one out, because the way I think of it is a little different than in the movie. In the movie, they go through the Stargate and they're going to some other planet, some other place that theoretically they could get into a spaceship and also get to that same place. So the Stargate is just a tool to shorten distance. But, in my mind, when I think of these Stargates,
basically a wormhole to the other destination.
To another destination.
It allows you to travel from point A to point B without time dilation.
Right. But I think for me, when I think of Stargate, I think it's probably more likely a doorway to another dimension, which will be different than going through a shortcut to another spot in the galaxy.
What, going into the dimension and then returning back to our dimension and
yeah, well,
whatever.
Those would be two different types of Stargates. One is just shortening a distance through space. Somewhere you could theoretically get in a spaceship.
And maybe some of these other Stargates that were found are actually portals to a different dimension entirely.
Yeah, well, and I think the distinction's pretty important. Like when I think in modern times when we think about non-human life or any non-human intelligence, our default is to think aliens on another planet like our own, who've maybe advanced technologically like us. But when you read some of the stories from the historic accounts from indigenous people, some of it sounds like they're describing beings that came from possibly another dimension,
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out, thinking that, hey, the distinction between the two could lead to very, very different types of beings on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think that there's both types.
Right?
I mean, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And maybe that's how they discovered being able to do it from point A to point B in the same dimension. Is they traveled to another dimension, learned something, and then
Get back here and implement it here.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing they seem to all have in common, these spots that have historically been said to have a Stargate or some sort of portal to another place, a faraway place, is these spots are all seem to have more UFO visits than other locations on Earth. UFOs are seen a whole lot more frequently there, and they just have a lot of odd phenomena that happen there. So it would seem as if there is some sort of energy converging there in these locations.
Well, isn't the Middle East the largest center of mass for ground cover that we have on the Earth?
I don't know. Well,
Because if you're looking at it from space, wouldn't that be like, oh, let's go land in the middle of everything? Would that kind of be the Middle East?
I think you're right, and I think I remember hearing that before. That if you were saying that the pyramids were like just the perfect center, if you're looking for a spot on Earth that's going to be the center of landmass. Yep, and according to the all-knowing ChatGPT, that is correct.
So if you're on the major landmass on Earth, you'd be able to get to the main focal point for whatever is visiting or whatever is being transmitted from those pyramids. So
And from the Stargates.
So if it was designed to emit energy from the center of landmass, it was designed to emit energy across the entire landmass. Strategically, they placed it there so that it could potentially be the main point of power, or
Of entry on, where you have your, if not power, the main point of entry, if it's a Stargate, to access all the land of Eurasia and Africa.
right?
Yeah. I'm wondering, are these Stargates also, so the pyramids are lined up with, is it Orion's belt they're lined up with?
Yeah, it's supposedly certain times of the year it lines up exactly with Orion's belt, but it maps the distance between the stars on Orion's belt, the three pyramids of Giza and the three pyramids in Mexico, Teotihuacan, I believe.
Yep.
Those are both mapped exactly the same, and I think the height of the pyramid in Mexico is exactly 50% of the ones in Giza as well, which I find really interesting. Why is it mathematically that close, or a fraction of the other pyramid?
Well, I think either the same civilization built them, or the builders of the builders of the pyramids in Central America were trying to imitate the construction in Giza, so they must have been aware of it. Are you familiar with the mythos behind the Egyptian character Thoth or Thoth? I'm not sure it's pronounced. So he's supposedly was this character, a godlike character that came to ancient Egypt, and very interesting the way they tell the narrative. I heard Billy Carson telling this story once. He comes to them and he tells them, "I'm going to help you rebuild civilization," which is interesting because it's supposed to be in ancient times anyway. So already what he's saying seems to imply that civilization's already fallen. Mm-hmm. And Thoth is, in this mythology, he's credited as being the architect of the pyramid. So he gets everybody together, they get the pyramid built, and then he tells the people to spread out and recreate what they have done there, and that through the process they will bring civilization back to the earth and to all the people. So some people look at that and think, well, hey, maybe these were the so-called Atlanteans, or these people who show up with this knowledge and then spread out around the world, building these megalithic great structures that we can't seem to figure out, all with the purpose of trying to lift humanity back to some level of civilization that we once knew.
Would explain a lot.
Yeah. Another, I just asked ChatGPT this, and just as I thought, most of the sites that have been alleged to have a Stargate or portal of some type, just like the other megalithic monuments, they're all lined up with constellations or different stars. So they, that seems to be a consistent theme with these ancient constructions. But just to give it a,
What are some of the other constructions?
well, you got Stonehenge. There's Gobekli. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. Gobekli Tepe, which is huge, and they're reburying that one. BlackRock bought the site, and they started reburying it. Thankfully, some people made a bunch of fuss internationally, made it all the way to the UN. So they stopped. They were not only reburying it, they were planting trees on top of the ruins. And people complained and made a big fuss saying, hey, the roots of these trees are going to destroy the ruins underground. And it would seem like you guys have to know that. So they at least quit planting trees.
Exactly what they were doing.
Right? And to me, that tells me that the people, BlackRock, who bought the land, the people that wanted to get the land in the first place, they must feel that there is absolutely nothing for them to learn down there. That any of the secrets that could be learned from examining those ruins, they already know.
Explain BlackRock to me.
BlackRock is
what is it? A corporation?
the corporation. Yeah, they're a mega corporation that owns. I believe the biggest corporation in the world, but most definitely in America. They pretty much own almost everything. Between them and Vanguard, they own BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Those three corporations own everything in America and most of the world.
So, why do they have control of the site then? Because they own the land?
Yeah. Now their claim is that they are going to continue to fund further archaeological exploration through tourism, through funds from tourism. I think any reasonable person looking at it can say, hey, governments fund archaeological endeavors all the time and scientific endeavors all the time. Why does this have to be funded through income from tourism? But that's what they say. And they say, well, we're reburying it because sites lose their interest to tourists. So if we dig it all up now, it'll lose its interest, and the human traffic of people coming to visit will destroy the site, and we won't be able to long term look into this. So they reburied some of it and say we're going to uncover it slowly and built this massive complex so the tourists can come see it.
I think they already knew it was there.
I believe you. I agree with you. Well, the site was even when they first discovered it, it appears to be intentionally buried a long time ago. So at some point in the distant past, thousands of years ago, it was filled in. It wasn't buried with time or erosion or that sort, like through a flood or anything. It was filled in with gravel and sand and soil, but intentionally filled in. So it was.
Well, that would mean it was fairly well preserved.
Very well
you would
preserved.
think.
Yeah. And have you seen some of the inscriptions and carvings on some of the rocks there?
Uh-uh.
They've got some really cool things that stood out to me. One of them being,
We're still talking about Gobekli.
Gobekli Tepe. Yeah.
That's hard to say.
There's some mythical animals carved into things there. Some of which we've seemingly have never seen before. So there's all sorts of animals carved on it. It looks like it's depicting some cataclysm that happened. Some of the stones. It shows some celestial alignments. Then it shows all of these animals. It shows some animals that appear to be mythical, but then it shows some animals that don't necessarily look mythical, but they look like no animal alive today.
Where is this? Turkey?
Yeah, in Turkey.
Is this it's not the underground city that somebody discovered in their backyard. That's different, isn't it?
No, this is not that. Göbekli Tepe, they think was, from what I've read about it, they think maybe was a gathering site for people while people were still very much nomadic. So the Auruk, let's see, a wild cattle, it's depicted on it. There's dinosaur-like carvings on it.
Yeah. Supposedly they didn't know about the dinosaurs back then.
I personally think people lived at the same time as the creatures that we now call dinosaurs. The dodo birds depicted on it. You know, I mean, every culture all around the world, they all had stories of dragons. They all had tales of people fighting these big monsters. The Chinese zodiac, it has one mythical animal in the zodiac. Like they picked one made up animal out of all the rest of the animals to make their zodiac. I just think it's so very likely that there were these creatures that we drove to extinction. You know, even in up until very, very recent times, that is what we did as people to any creature that threatened our way of life. So as Americans spread out across the continent, we drove the American wolf, to near extinction because it threatened our cattle. So if there were these big reptiles that also threatened our way of life, it would only seem reasonable to me that we would kill them off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we go back Lake Tepe. The other cool carving is the carving of the handbag that is seen in so many carvings, in Egyptian historic sites, Native American historic sites, Mesoamerican historic sites. So there's the famous Sumerian carving is the most famous one of it, but
Could be a handbag or a bucket, maybe,
well they so
or even just anything with a handle on it, almost.
well, but in the Sumerian one, it looks so. In one hand, you have this humanoid with a bird head and wings. In one hand, he's holding a pine cone, and in the other hand, he's carrying this bag. But whatever that bag is, there's a few things that are consistent anytime we've seen this depicted in ancient art. One is they look like they have some sort of bracelet or watch on, and yeah, they're carrying this bag. The bag must be important. You know, I imagine it's not just a satchel.
Why would they carve it on a rock if they didn't see it all the time or find it super important?
Right. And the pine cone, I've heard some scholars say, oh, it symbolizes knowledge.
Can you zoom in on the pine cone?
Let's see. He's got the pine cone. I've heard some
Could be a
scholars
pine
think it's
cone.
like is that to signify our pineal gland? Or yeah, what if it's not even a pine cone? It looks like a pine cone, and there's the pine cone definitely has this very important symbolism in religions and such. The Pope, he has a staff that he walks around with a pine cone on top.
What does that symbolize?
I'm as far as I've ever seen, I believe it's supposed to symbolize the pineal gland. So Pope's pine cone staff. There we go. Google knew to finish it for me. So I guess it's not at the top. It's like right before the top of it. So yeah, the Pope's got this. He's got a staff with a pine cone on it. So there's this giant statue there at the Vatican of a pine cone with two peacocks before it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got another depiction of it. That's the staff of Osiris. So this imagery goes way back, and personally, I think we live in a post-apocalyptic world, and there is some order, some group of people. Maybe it's like a fraternity, maybe it's the Masons, who knows? But there is some organized grouping of people who has managed to preserve knowledge from before whatever cataclysmic event took out the last time we had reached an advanced civilization similar to where we are now, or more advanced.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. so many similarities between all of the different religions and faiths and civilizations, like Indian culture and Egyptian and Mesoamerican. They all had similar carvings that had handbags and supposedly with the pine cone or something similar. There's other carvings as well, but why are there such similarities if they were separate cultures?
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think there's plenty of evidence enough to safely say that during these ancient times when these sites were built, it was a global culture, or it was a time when people were able to traverse the world. They've found Egyptian mummies where when they look at what's in their stomach, they find remnants of plants that were native to the Americas, that were supposedly not in the old world prior to I can't say the word right now for some reason. The age of exploration. Let's go with that instead of the colonial word. But those crops weren't supposed to be in Europe and Africa and Asia prior to Christopher Columbus heading over. But they find these mummies with remnants of those plants in their stomach. So it seems like these people were going back and forth. They were able to go from Egypt and the Giza Plateau to Central America. My big question in my mind is what could have possibly happened to destroy a civilization like that? And whatever it is, it's hidden from us. There's some people who think, oh, it's hidden because the disaster was the global flood, and it's hidden because they don't want people to believe in the religious historical narrative. But I think that's too simple. I think that's way too simple. Religion has always been a tool of control, and if it was just that, I would think that they would, slam that in our face nonstop to get us to obey religious authorities. It's got to be more than that. I've heard some people think that maybe our so-called creators, the Anunnaki creators, return periodically.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what the event is, and maybe that's what governments are preparing for, their return. When the WikiLeaks happened, there was a lot of buzz around some emails to kind of jump back to Hillary Clinton. There was all this buzz online that there were supposedly emails of Hillary Clinton requesting the location of the tomb of Gilgamesh. And I did some digging. I wasn't able to find anything that showed an email from Hillary Clinton, but I did find that back in 2018, there was a Freedom of Information Act request that went in for the tomb of Gilgamesh and the location of buried Nephilim giants. And then going right along with that was all this buzz of saying that talk within the Pentagon was that the Sumerian gods are returning. I'm sure you heard that a couple years back, all this conspiratorial buzz of Planet X, Planet Nibiru, and all of that.
Yeah.
That was all the same thing of people saying that that's what's coming.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Hey guys, you can make donations now to support our podcast on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab.
Building off what we were talking about earlier, one thing they haven't looked at, or I haven't seen anything about so far, when examining Göbekli Tepe is, was this site built with a focus on the acoustics of the structure, like so many ancient sites? As we were talking about the science behind using sound to levitate an object, and just the science behind sound in general. So many of these ancient sites seem to have been built with a real focus on sound. I think last week you told me something I thought was fascinating. was that every single building, every single structure has a resonant frequency. That if you manage to speak or play sound at that frequency, it'll overtake all other sound in a building. And you've got things like the Greek amphitheaters that were built. Let's see, the Epidaurus amphitheater is renowned for its exceptional acoustics, allowing even unamplified spoken words from the stage to be heard clearly by up to 14,000 spectators. It's like
Yeah, I think that and the Parthenon and most of them were designed
yeah.
like there was specific stones in the center of the stage that you could stand and speak at a regular voice, and
Be heard.
it would just be amplified through the entire theater.
And it's easy to think that, okay, hey, in these less advanced times, just like today, if you're getting a big grouping of people, you're going to put some focus on making sure you can be heard. But the precision of this is, to me, I think that seems to imply a much deeper and more extensive knowledge of the science behind sound.
Yeah, yeah. There was I don't remember if we talked about it last time or not. There was a stone carving that depicted a large humanoid sitting in front of some humans that were much smaller, about half the size. And there was a circular object on top of a table in between the two of them, but it looked like a cymatic frequency being depicted there. And let's see if we can find it.
Let's see, I'm doing a little search at the same time, too, while we look for that. In just doing a little research on how ancient people use sound and how historic cultures around the globe use sound. One cool thing I found is the practice of mantras throughout different cultures. Sometimes it's just repeating a phrase. Sometimes it's repeating a song. I saw an interesting study done on an African tribe where one of the things they historically do is when a woman is pregnant, she picks a tree, and throughout her pregnancy, she goes to this tree every day and sits and sings. I'm sorry, I left one thing out. She picks a tree and she picks a song for her, unborn child. And she goes to this tree and sings every day during the pregnancy and during the beginning of the child's life. And in their culture, what they have found through studying these people is it creates this safe space, if you will, and with the song and with the location for the unborn child. So later in life, adults, when hearing the song that their mother sang to them in the womb every day, that song, that melody, just calms them down. And it's so deeply interwoven in them to calm them down, and going to that location seems to calm them down. So it's like even while they're in the womb, that sound is leaving such an imprint on them that it will forever impact them for life. And I just thought that was a beautiful tradition they got there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I found
there. Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
Group of ancient Mesopotamian gods, the Anunnaki, supposedly in this depiction. It looks like a large Anunnaki sitting on a stone with some sort of creatures or humans inside this stone structure, holding it or building it, and he's holding a ring and a scepter in his hand. And in between, there's a table and 3 appearing humans coming to this thing on the table, and it looks like a cymatic on this table. It looks like a large disc with like a star and some waves emanating from the sides of it, which very much could be a cymatic. And above that, there's another human. Looks like he's holding some sort of strings up, or
he could be hoisting it up.
And I wonder if that cymatic is depicting the frequency needed for like
to make the stone weightless.
make a stone weightless? Potentially, yeah, that's very possible. Or for interdimensional travel, or above the Anunnaki, there's three more carvings there, a crescent and some more star flower like looking carvings.
It could be those could be
And then there's a bunch of Sumerian script on the wall as well.
well,
But this is Sumerian. This isn't even Egyptian. This is the very
Before that.
earliest stone carvings that we know about.
what I love about the ancient Sumerian carvings and the Egyptian ones that seem to depict these much larger humanoids and small humans in the same piece of the same carving is it's always told to us, well, the big human is depicted big because he's a king. And I was like, well, they all had stories of giants. Are we sure that it's not depicting him big because he's bigger than the other people? And sometimes they'll say, oh, the little ones are children. I was like, well, that child has a beard.
It doesn't explain a whole lot to it. But yeah, I found that really interesting, and I'm sure in our travels we'll find more of that.
Yeah, even at the bottom of this carving, what they're standing on, it has this wavy pattern, and I see what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 more of that same pattern that it could be the sun, or it could be a cymatic pattern, but it looks like a circle, some wavy lines coming out of it, and 4 points almost like it's a compass. And that too makes me wonder, hey, is this depicting, this is the frequency to use, and the wavy lines at the bottom could be showing us how the sand and the ground is moving while they're doing it.
Oh, yeah. If we only, you and I had the tools to test these theories.
Right.
Let's get a scientist on the show.
Yeah, we need to get some acoustic tools and figure out just how easy it is to make something weightless, but the sound's just so powerful. Only very recently, as we talked about last episode, or we're starting to see medical science look at the power of sound again. But as I did research on this week, I was sort of left with the feeling that is this a technology or a knowledge that has been intentionally taken away from us? Because even if you go back just a couple of centuries and you look at the constructions, the buildings that they were building, there was so much focus on the acoustics. You got these massive buildings, Notre Dame, and all these other things, and it's like, were they really just churches? Was it just built for people to pray, or were these places a real center of healing, where you come in and because of the acoustics, they get to playing that organ or something, and you can heal someone's sickness?
Yeah, I would believe it.
And, if the Vatican was hanging on a knowledge like that, that would be very beneficial to them during medieval times when they needed to pull off a few miracles here and there.
Right. Well, some people say the medieval times never actually happened.
I've heard that too. Personally, I could see it as being very plausible. Not the medieval times, but the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages.
Oh, the Dark Ages.
Yeah, that period where supposedly nothing was written, nothing was made. I've heard the theory that Charlemagne invented it so he could rule in the year 1000. But if they added 700 to 900 years to our system of time, that would mean we're really in the year 1000 now, are barely at the year 1000. That would be wild, because like we all think of Roman times as being one way, and what if it was completely different? I think they've hidden a lot of the technology from us in those times. I've got a cool random one for you, since we're talking about those times back then. Have you ever, what the fasces is?
Mm-mm.
It's like it looks like a bundle of sticks. They're depicted in our capital on the statue of Lincoln. Let's see, but
Oh,
they're
it's
a
like
Roman
a
thing.
bundle of sticks wrapped around an axe.
Yeah, but they were supposedly ceremonial. So, but they're depicted all over our Capitol. A bundle of sticks with an axe on the outside.
Okay, what's the point of that?
So supposedly, that's what they look like in our Capitol.
Really?
Supposedly, in Roman times, in ancient Roman times, every emperor or generals, pretty much people high up in the Roman Empire, they would have officials whose whole job was to follow them around with these fasces, these decorative bundle of sticks with an axe head on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people's entire job is just follow them around with this. And the writings we have left over from the Romans say that, based on your rank in the Roman Empire, would determine how many fasces were being carried with you. And I mean, some of these people have a retinue, they have, their soldiers and guards following them. And then they've got 20 people or, 20 plus people whose whole job is to just carry this thing. And when I look at that, I'm just like, well, that just seems so odd. Why in the world would you carry this around? It's not a practical weapon. And they say, oh, it was just ceremonial to show that they were official. But I came across this video the other day that showed just from this design, if you assume it's not a bundle of sticks,
Maybe a scroll or something, maybe.
or if not a scroll, you could make a battery. If what this, these bands are supposed to depict the leather bands holding it together,
Sure.
if that was actually circuitry to connect it, and in the center, it could either be a battery or a power generating device. And in the center, you have either your main storage or your power, or whatever your crank, whatever you use to generate power. And when I got to thinking about that,
Well, what is it powering?
right, that's the real question. But when I
is it-
thought about
A force field or something?
if they are, I'll play this real quick. Let's mute it. This guy pretty much builds one, and it looks just like a fasces, but it is a free energy device. And so when I saw that, I got to just thinking of the possibility of, like I was saying earlier, hey, if there's some group that has managed to hang on to knowledge past some apocalyptic event, and they were around in Roman times, I would like, well, that would be way cooler, and that would make a lot more sense of why your important people in the empire have these. Maybe it's just a battery, but I have these guys following them, and your whole job is to just carry this thing.
Yeah, there's an actual purpose other than
Ceremonial. Because it seems a little far fetched to me to be like, oh, you're heading to Britannia,
everybody was that vain.
right? Don't forget
Not
to take your
everybody.
24 guys who do nothing but carry this ceremonial thing.
Maybe a couple of assholes were that vain, but I don't believe that all of them were. It's such a prominent, successful civilization that
And the expense to the empire.
Yeah.
It just, why would you pay for that? But they're depicted all over, and they're supposedly a symbol of power. And I'm like, hey, maybe a symbol of power is more than just political power.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so why do all our monuments depict it then? Because they see it as a symbol of
Power.
other than a symbol of power, or the actual.
Well, supposedly, the official story is our monuments depicted because it was a symbol of Roman power, and our government was modeled after the Roman Republic.
Democracy.
Not democracy, our republic. We're not.
Oh.
We're not. We've never been
Greeks-
a democracy here.
The Greeks were democratic, weren't they?
Yeah, as funny, I've heard someone make the case once that the idea of calling America a democracy, it actually arose during the Cold War, and it was part of Soviet propaganda because they wanted to push this idea that we're a democracy, and that the people should be having more of a say, but really our system's designed for the people to not be having a say all the time. It's designed to filter what the people want through the more refined elites who can make better decisions than what we would do. All the sarcasm was there for those who couldn't see it on my face. All the sarcasm. What else we got here? Let's see. We had quite a lot for these ancient sites. Oh, just before we lose the topic of Stargates, I've found an interesting thing that apparently NASA, they didn't use the term Stargate, but NASA has admitted to researching what they call access points to places outside our world, outside our universe, and even outside beyond space-time. And that was as recent as 2015 when they admitted to looking for that. So the idea was that there are certain spots on Earth that are access points, which to me that fits the definition of Stargate.
Yeah. Did it say any more than that?
No, that just that they've been spending money looking for that here on Earth as part of a big part of their undersea or exploration.
Okay.
There was and I also came across this interesting Celtic myth. I feel like there's a lot of myths that may be described this way, but this one seemed more close to Stargate, so I tossed it in here. But the legend of Tuatha de Danann, an Irish...
Tuatha de Danann.
Tuatha de Danann. An Irish myth describes deities arriving from the sky, traveling in dark clouds, and causing a solar eclipse-like darkness for 3 days and nights. So that's a myth that's been interpreted by some as like aliens arriving, or potential folks coming to Earth through a Stargate.
Have you ever seen a lightning storm with no sound?
I haven't. I've on videos, but not in person.
I saw one the other day just nearby here, and you're seeing all kinds of lightning strikes. And they could be a number of miles away, but you would still hear some reverberation.
Well, I thought lightning doesn't make the sound. I thought thunder is the sound of lightning. Take that back.
It's breaking the sound barrier, which is what the clap of thunder is the electricity travels faster than the speed of sound, and it breaks the sound barrier.
So what about when you don't hear it?
Well, I was wondering, it was a large cloud, and you could see lightning strikes above, below, and outside of the cloud. None of which that I could see striking the ground, but it was this huge cloud that you'd see a lightning strike 2 to 3 times every second. And the first thought that came to my mind was that there's a large spaceship or something up there, and it's like entering our atmosphere and creating all this static electricity as it enters the atmosphere. Or there's a cloak of some sort, and that's part of the cloak is it creates like
lightning,
like a screen of cloud and lightning.
Well, that would make total sense. And even in our sci-fi, when we make movies and shows, when we're depicting humans having the ability to travel to other planets, that sort of high technology, we definitely throw in cloaking technology. And hey, if you were arriving on the planet and you didn't want us to notice you on the ground, appearing as a cloud would be the way to go. And it doesn't even really seem like it would be all that high tech. Like we have the ability and the knowledge to make clouds on the ground already.
Yeah.
But our current, so if you could build some massive ship up there, you just put a couple of vents on there where it emits out some clouds.
You can't see it from the ground,
right? And we already have the tech for cloud seeding to make a storm happen when we need it. Well, even if you could see it from the ground, if all you saw was a cloud and a thunderstorm, you'd dismiss it.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, if you make it rain, not only will people not see it, they're not going to look up because they're trying to not get rained on.
Yeah.
It's ingenious. Ingenious. And that makes me think too, how many cultures out there had storm gods? In a lot of cultures, the storm god, or the main god, the chief god, the storm, the thunder, the lightning, that was one of their main powers. And so they identified that with their gods, which is easy to say, oh, ancient people not understanding the world. But I think those overly simplistic explanations for ancient beliefs don't really line up with what we see from the ancients. You know, the people who could build...
They were much smarter than what is depicted to us.
Exactly. The people who could build the Great Pyramids of Giza, I don't think they were running to hide every time.
They weren't just a bunch of rubes out there.
Not at all. We're probably a bunch of rubes compared to them. But talking about pyramids, I think we can kind of segue into one of the other topics we had on the list of underground facilities. Because some of our pyramids and such, we know, have enormous underground facilities.
Yeah, so I was just looking to see, through my research, I wasn't trying to find super secret stuff, but I was looking also to see what we know of that is actually in use currently. So we all know, like, NORAD in Cheyenne Mountain. It was built a long time ago for...
It's where they track Santa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do track Santa, supposedly. And he moves very fast across the globe during Christmas season.
Yeah.
But it was meant for continuity of government program, which was invented during the Cold War or sometime before that, so that they could be underground and still have all of the governmental operations that they would need to defend our country or our way of life and everything above from a military standpoint. There's $1 trillion facilities that I found. The Center for Land Use Interpretation is a group that is quite interesting. There's a place called Space Center in Independence, Missouri. It's used to be a limestone mine that was completely excavated by man, and now it's basically office space and warehouse space. And there's also something very nearby. It looks very similar, called Subtropolis, which is the exact same thing, just a different company. And I believe Space Center is owned by cryptocurrency, because they needed a shit ton of space to start running their servers, and they needed to be climate controlled. They needed it to be temperature controlled, and now they're renting out all kinds of space. So, yeah, Space Center is one of them, and there's videos that like
It's like a city under there, right?
yeah, and you can rent space, and they've got like millions and millions of square foot down there.
Have you seen? I think they're building new communities for civilians in California and Los Angeles, like this. Have you seen those? Yeah.
No.
Let's see. I saw a poster for it a while back that I think it was for like Silo. It said "Live Deeper" or something.
So Subtropolis has 55 million square feet available. It's a mine in the bluffs north of the Missouri River in Kansas City, Missouri. And then the other one, the Space Center, is in Independence, Missouri. Very similar area, but it's all underground, old limestone mines. Looks like it could have been excavated by this very same company, refurbished by the same company. And I went to a real estate site to see if you could to purchase or rent the property, and it doesn't give you prices and whatnot, but it shows range of sizes, and it was very interesting to see all the commerce around it as well.
And is it? I guess just businesses who are just taking advantage of the benefits of being underground with what you're saving energy, the climate control, and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, it's constantly 62 degrees down there or something like that, and it's constant humidity because it's underground.
I wouldn't mind living underground. I've always wanted to have a hobbit house. Like I could build my own. I'd get it'd be quite a sight, a hobbit house for someone who's 6'4". One that's a big hill,
Right.
really big hill. So I guess I can't find it now, but yeah, I've seen where they are building underground housing developments in California. Silo. Okay, yeah, I thought this was for the show, but yeah, it's
Oh, so underground LA? It's an underground silo?
well, that's the plan.
So maybe they're just trying to ease into, by the way, we're going to have to go underground at some point. So
Yeah,
here we are.
but maybe we've already been underground.
Well, I would very much believe that as well, that we're,
I don't know how you say that. Was the one we were looking at earlier in Turkey, the super old underground tunnel city? It could house 20,000 people.
Darren Kuyu.
Yeah, Darren.
That was somebody found an entrance to that in like their backyard.
Accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. And they found this, was it like 20,000 square feet or something bigger than that? And it's in a complete underground city that was in Turkey. I don't even know how long ago, but it's an ancient structure underground.
Well, it makes me wonder what happened to make people
Want to
build
live underground.
Yeah, and to build something like that. And the one in Turkey, it's not luxurious residence, but it can house 20,000 people.
No,
even
it
spots
looks
for the
necessary
cattle.
for something.
It looks necessary. There's a tribe of Native Americans who have a story in their mythology about people who live underground, and when times of great cataclysm come, they've supposedly been our saviors. They've welcomed us into the caves and such, and during times of great cataclysm, and then people reemerge after the cataclysm.
Who is this? What?
Let me find which tribe that was. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I guess several Native American tribes have myths about subterranean people who shelter or save humanity during times of cataclysm. So the Hopi, they talk about, that's the one I heard, the ant people. They talk about the ant people and the Sipapuni. So during previous world destructions, floods, fire, ice, the ant people, beings who live in vast subterranean cities, brought humanity underground to survive. The Hopi say we are now in the fourth world, having been guided through a small opening, the Sipapuni, into the surface world by these beings. So they depict the ant people with elongated heads and large eyes. So and then we got the Zuni, who also tell of spirit beings who took people into the inner earth when the surface became uninhabitable due to floods or fire. The Navajo believe in multiple worlds beneath this one, through which the holy people guided humanity after disasters in the lower worlds. So I guess they think of it different. They think we were led here from disasters below. That's interesting. The Mandan Plains, Native Americans from the plains. Their origin story says their ancestors lived in a subterranean village and emerged through a great hole in the ground to populate the earth. So the theme is there, And if we look at the more recent discoveries, like out there at the Giza Plateau, under the Sphinx, under all those pyramids, I'm just left wondering, do you think it's occupied deep down below?
I want to believe yes.
I want to believe yes as well, And if it's been continuously occupied, I think the people who live down there, they're the ones probably really in charge of the world,
Yeah.
And they're just observing what happens on the surface. They're much safer, I would imagine, from anything that could happen on the surface. Yeah, and all the underground spots that are known, you got to wonder of what are the ones we don't know about.
Yeah. So I started looking all over the web, even the dark web, to see if I can find anything. Dark web's very hard to navigate, but In China, Jinping Underground Laboratory is the largest underground laboratory, supposedly the deepest as well. But I guess they're researching like neutrinos and all kinds of like dark matter sort of stuff, which is much easier to research without outer like cosmic interference, I guess. So they're trying to research all kinds of stuff like that. I think Sanford Lab is also doing something like that. That's in South Dakota, I believe. And that's the largest one in the United States, I believe, or known one. That's just what's publicized as far as what they do. There's also this place called Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center,
Oh, that's the one from.
nestled in Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. It's a bastion of U.S. continuity and security. Facility shrouded in secrecy and designed for worst-case scenarios as a key player for national emergency management and resilience. Let's dive into the fortress. It says, safeguarding the nation's governance and emergency preparedness. Key features, it's a bunker facility, command center, advanced communications, strategic location. It's part of continuity of government and more specifically continuity of operations plan for crisis situations. It's very highly guarded. Access is restricted and to authorized personnel only. It's one of the world's most secure buildings, according to this website.
So that one, Mount Weather, was featured in the show The 100. It's a show. I think it's on Netflix. It's a television show, but it's all about a post-apocalyptic future where humanity's engaged in nuclear warfare. A group of people were sent off into space to wait it out on a big space station to wait it out until the Earth is livable again. But some people didn't leave. They land, and where they land, I guess they're around Mount Weather, and there is the continuity of government. The U.S. government has continued from Mount Weather in the show, and they're deep underground fighting the mutants who still live on the surface, but they're operating from there.
Sounds like a spinoff of Wall-E.
Yeah.
Everybody go onto a spaceship and wait it out for 100,000 years or whatever it is, and then come back.
There's a lot of shows where they the idea is pushed that underground is where we would go. There's a newer one on Apple TV called Silo, and it's a post-apocalyptic future too, where there's tons of silos built all over the world, and everybody lives in a silo where you're not allowed to leave. So, but yeah, with all these underground construction, I think it begs the question of how extensive is it? I think in previous episodes we talked about the idea of tunnel networks connecting them all, and I think that would only be logical. Why would the world's elite, when they figured out railroads and subways, why wouldn't they build exclusive lines just for them? And if you've got these all this underground infrastructure, it's just logical, and it would be of so much benefit to connect them with tunnels. Even if you go back to medieval times, you check out medieval castles and stuff, and the Duke or the Count, they had their secret tunnel to get them wherever they wanted to go. So,
well, if they're building subways and whatnot underneath major cities, why would the elite stop with just subways, right?
Right.
When they extend that to their homes or to other safe havens somewhere?
I would think so. It's from a defense standpoint, it only makes sense, and then from an egotistical rich person standpoint, yeah, if I'm Queen Victoria, I want a special underground subway to take me from Windsor Castle to my home in Scotland. Get me there, and yeah, from the military standpoint, if you can move quickly underground, unseen, undetected, you can operate like a ghost. Did we talk about the pyramids in China on the last episode?
I think we briefly mentioned it.
Yeah, that's I hope in our lifetime we can see more with more come out about the pyramids and what their actual purpose is. But I think given that they're all over the world, I think it's probably safe to assume they all have subterranean complexes to go with them. You don't build something that big without thinking about the foundation. It's I think they've got to be an integral part of our world that we just don't understand, and it's kept hush hush, But they're doing something, and the Chinese keep their pyramids super hush hush. Nobody, no,
Yeah, they don't talk about any of it.
no archaeologists. Like they don't want any tourism from it. So makes me think theirs.
They actually started covering it with dirt and planting trees on top of it.
Yeah, paying farmers to plant trees. So it's like, why do you want to hide them? Makes me think they're operational. But what does operational mean? I've heard some say
I think they're just
charging stations.
shrouding it from satellite surveillance would be my best guess.
Yeah, that would make sense. Satellites coming by, it's going to be harder to see where they are.
Yeah.
What's Raven Rock? The underground Pentagon. Ooh, our Site R, massive subterranean facility built within Raven Rock Mountain in Pennsylvania, is a secure backup for the government, designed to ensure. How many do you think for total sites of continuity of government? You think we have less than 100, more than 100?
I don't think the number matters. It's just a matter of how many do they have that are active and how many are connected.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely more than redundant, because the government does love their redundancies. But I think, there's probably at least 100, like dark sites. And then there's another 40 or 50 that they let us know about.
Yeah.
Or that are decommissioned and they've converted into something more public useful. But, I'm certain that there's a number here in Colorado that are decommissioned, some of which go miles and miles underneath the ground.
Yeah.
I used to work with a guy that said he would take an SEBA with him, which is a self-contained breathing apparatus, and a couple of bottles, breathing air bottles with him, and he'd go as low as he could until the oxygen level dropped. And then he'd throw that thing on and he'd have about an hour's worth of travel down. And then he'd have another bottle for an hour's worth of travel back up. And he said he made it about 6.5 hours down travel. And, he said it was spooky and it was just all decommissioned. Like he was wading through water a couple of times, but he said there was no near end to what he could see, even after 6.5 hours worth of travel.
That is incredible and spooky to think of what's going on right underneath our feet.
Right. And then that was a decommissioned one from who knows how long ago.
What are the modern commissioned ones look like?
What is the
if that's Cold War?
What is the
era,
magnitude of the ones that we see today?
Yeah,
that are actually in use.
And that's because he's probably exploring an old Cold War construction.
Yeah.
I had one more sort of UFO-y thing on the list, but I just thought of something else that I wanted to bring up as we're talking about the pyramids and sound and frequency, and that is thinking about how do the things that we have in our modern world to make the modern world what it is, pushing out frequencies and sound that we are all affected by. How do you think they affect us on an individual level, and more than that on a societal level? So things like invisible things that are frequencies around us. So like radio waves, Wi-Fi, 5G's the latest one, but all these things are frequencies in the air. And, when thinking about the pyramids and how they have their resonant chambers and, it's built on this limestone basin, so it produces this energy. One thing I thought is, hey, they are these big structures, and, they all have the obelisk and things around them. Were they emitting more than just electricity or energy? If they are emitting some sort of frequency that could be picked up by obelisk or other things, and just Do you think the different frequencies that we're pumping out in mass in the modern world, do you think they affect people on an individual level in ways that maybe we're not conscious of?
I think it's very possible. I mean, you've got all the frequencies that are inaudible, so like your 5G and your radio frequencies and whatnot. And I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm sure there's a scientist that claims that it does, and there's another scientist that claims that it doesn't. And it's hard to believe with the amount of information that we have out there and to find out who's actually credible. But, I definitely feel a greater amount of peace when I'm away from all of the
Same.
technology.
Same.
It's not, I think it's very excitable to be around electricity and radio frequency and all that. But even in the mountains, you probably wouldn't be able to get away from radio frequency.
Not entirely.
Not
No.
entirely. Like AM waves will travel across the globe.
Well, so and there is, like you said, there's some scientists and people out there who
Take a
think it
ham
does do
radio up
something.
into the mountains, you still get
Still
some
get
radio
signal.
station.
Yeah, you can't escape it. It's around us, but it wasn't always, And these invisible frequencies traveling through the air, they travel through us. They travel through ourselves. We know that
It's all radiation somehow, and
One form or the
there's
other.
also cosmic radiation too from stars and whatever else is out there, right?
well, we know the cell phones. In Europe they have to give you the warning. You're not supposed to. They say don't put it near your head.
Don't put a cell phone near your head.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Oh,
So
good idea.
in Europe, they have to give a warning, almost like a pack of cigarettes. So they have to tell you that it's known, it's proven to cause cancer. So you're not supposed to put it near your head. You're not supposed to sleep with it within 6 feet of you. Men, we shouldn't walk around with it in our pockets. We're going to give ourselves testicular cancer. Women shouldn't carry it on their breasts. They're going to give themselves breast cancer. So we know these things definitely have effects. And, the cell phone is one we carry, but I'm thinking of the towers and such, and just how might those things be affecting us? Could they affect our perception of the world? I've read before, during COVID when they came out, there were the people who speculated that the virus was really started by 5G.
Yeah,
And
that's
its rollout did match with 5G. The first COVID cases in America happened in the exact places where they rolled out 5G first. 5G was first rolled out in Wuhan, China, right where the first cases are. And then if you go further back, when they were, there was another thing being rolled out, and I want to say it's radar, when the Spanish flu happened, the Spanish influenza. And, I don't think the frequencies have the ability of like causing a virus to spread. But one thing that does seem decently plausible to me is, hey, if I've lived 30 years of my life and I've been exposed to a certain environment, and all of a sudden a new form of radiation is introduced to me, a new frequency, a new vibration just going through my body, I could see how that could maybe give our body something to fight or something to deal with, something to adjust to.
So speaking of the virus, and we need to revisit our predictions from a couple episodes ago as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Dean Koontz, the author, I believe he does mostly horror. In 1981, the famous American writer Dean Koontz wrote a book called Eyes of Darkness, which refers to a bacteriological weapon called the Wuhan 400. Right?
Yeah.
Which the author predicted would spread across the world in 2020. Okay? The weapon, according to the book, affects the lungs and bronchi and is not amendable to modern disease control methods. How much more on the fucking point can you get with a
Right? Look at this. Now, as you were started saying, I typed in his name and just Eyes of Darkness COVID prediction. The way AI tries to steer you off, it's hilarious. It says, the original version, first edition of Eyes of Darkness doesn't mention Wuhan 400. Instead, it features a virus named Gorky 400 developed in a lab near Gorky, Russia. Later edition changes. The name of the virus was changed to Wuhan 400. in a later edition released in 1989.
Still,
So it's like,
who cares?
Still plenty advanced of when COVID came out. I think it's fair to say he predicted it.
Right?
Maybe
So-
that was when they changed their mind. I said, we're going to have the virus come out of Wuhan.
Well, that and it, yeah, it's interesting that AI is it's trying to not give you misinformation, but it's still definitely directed to give you a certain type of information.
Oh, yeah. It's designed
It's
to,
programmed by the people that want you to know what they want you to know.
and to not give you certain information.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we got to go back to predictions now. I believe August 1st was a prediction. Is that correct?
It was. Let's see. August 1st, a rogue AI chatbot is blamed for influencing real-world violence.
Okay. Can we look that up?
I think we got some of those already.
Yeah, but is there a specific something that happened this week?
Let's see. I'll just do AI and violence. Anti-tech extremism. AI could be a target of political violence.
Industrial scale deepfake abuse caused a crisis in South Korean schools, which was deepfakes are generally generated by AI now,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Deepfake sexualized imagery of their classmates. Well, and I've heard of that happening here in the States too, of guys go onto the dating apps and they take a real picture of someone.
And they create a deepfake of that person and then try and blackmail them.
Yeah. Or if not blackmail them, threaten to, sometimes it's just harassment and embarrassment. Like there's some girl that, the guy likes, and he's going to he's going to look at her,
Gaslight them with it.
or just, fill
Like
the
you
internet
did
with
this and
fake
you don't
porn.
remember.
Yeah. Or fill the internet with fake porn of them, even if it's not you, if you come across if this stuff's being shared, and especially if it's becoming popular, of your face on some other body, I think it would bother me all the same. Because people might think it's you. So we got a Florida man with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia became emotionally attached to an AI chatbot, believing it was sentient. When he was told otherwise, he became violent with a butcher knife and was fatally shot by the police. Wait, what?
When was that? January.
Let's see. Was that January? Well, this is
Oh,
that
no,
might
that's
not be it.
LinkedIn.
That might not be it. Let's see. More specifically, we got to figure out if we got our future prediction right. Well, I'm asking AI for just stories from August 2025. So we got the lawsuit from the teen who killed himself. That's the lawsuit was filed. So I think that would make it so your prediction is right. If the lawsuit was filed in August, the AI is being blamed for real-world violence of this teen killing himself.
Yeah.
And August 5th, journalist Jim Acosta posted an interview using AI-generated avatar of Joaquin Oliver, a Parkland shooting victim who would have turned 25 that day. Well, that's not really AI being blamed. And in the UK, gotta love that, a new AI violence prediction tool rose out. That's just what we need. We need the AI to tell the police when crime is going to happen before it happens.
Pre-crime.
Pre-crime. Who doesn't love pre-crime?
What a great movie that was.
Who doesn't want to have a knock on the door from the police and they tell you
You're about to commit murder.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Our computer models say we've got to take you in before you go do something.
Well, I'd say that's entirely plausible,
Yeah.
depending upon your interpretation. But I think that's plausible so far. It has been, if not right on, but fairly accurate. What's our next date? August 26th.
Worldwide deep state trial simulation leaks. Many claim it mirrors reality too closely. Deep state trial of simulation.
What does that mean?
Meaning simulating reality.
Deep state trial simulation leaks. Many claim it mirrors reality too closely. What?
So if you had an AI or a computer model that was trying to mirror reality, which that actually makes me think about something I was just thinking about with the other one too. There's this show
So the
on
AI is trying to make a prediction of the
the
future,
exactly,
by running scenarios, and
and plumping in all the real world data you can to try to make it depict the real world.
they get scared that it's reality too closely.
That it's too perfectly
Isn't that
matched
the
in reality.
fucking point?
Well, that is the point, but I think once we get there, that is a scary future, And I think we're already. Who's to say we're not already there? I would imagine governments are already paying for that exact sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's a show based on a book by Isaac Asimov, who's regarded as one of the best sci-fi writers
Oh
of
yeah,
all time.
he's great.
There's a show called Foundation. It's called Foundation on Apple TV, and in the show, there is this guy who stands up to the Galactic Empire. He's just this scientist, and he has invented this machine that he calls the Prime Radiant, and the Prime Radiant predicts the future. And I was actually just talking to someone earlier today. We were talking about the show, and we were talking about how close reality, how Asimov had a great imagination, because it's almost like he's predicted where the future is headed. Because already with AI, with our computer models, there's already these computer models to try to predict what's going to happen in the economy, to predict what's going to happen in all these fields. And so it would only stand to reason that governments and other big organizations are putting computer power behind trying to figure out what's going to happen in the world.
You know what happens in the rest of his books, right? AI takes over
Yeah.
and tries to destroy man or rescue man from himself.
Yeah. Yep. We're just gonna head right into the matrix, but it seems like we would go that way. And given where technology is today, I could totally see a future, probably not so far off, where we have almost deified some computer or some technological machine whose whole purpose is to predict the future. Because
at some point you stop thinking that it's fallible at all, and then
right,
then it's deified. If as soon as you think that it couldn't make a mistake,
and if it's right most of the time, it would be easy for people to get to that point, and then now that's your oracle. It's your modern oracle where all the hopes of everything are placed on it.
Yeah, scary thought.
Yeah. Let's see, we had...
what else? September 9th, Pope makes unexpected statement about non-human souls. That one, yeah, like I think we talked about that's inevitable.
Yeah, and for either alien life or for an AI, artificial intelligence.
Or newly sentient, or, extraterrestrial.
Well, the Catholic Church, Catholic does mean universal. So, and they've made statements about that before when asking about aliens. The different Catholic priests said, well, I want to be the first to baptize them. So I think it's pretty safe to say, at least when it comes to other organic life, their stance is going to be that the doors of faith are open to all of them. I would hope that the church, when it comes to artificial intelligence, would take the stance that it's not the same. It's not organic life. Because to me, when I think of the artificial intelligence, I almost think of it as just like it's a vessel that some sentience can come inhabit, but it's if it's just wires and that sort of thing, is it really life? Sometimes I wonder, are we creating vessels for souls from some other dimension to enter into?
I think that'd be a great research topic, is what constitutes intelligence and artificial intelligence, and what creates consciousness and the ability to think for itself, and at what point sentience is actually reached. I think we discussed that briefly before, but like, is it self-preservation, or therefore I think, therefore I am? Is that really true with AI?
It's so I think sentience and intelligence or consciousness is such a hard thing for us to really define as humans, because we are conscious, and to try to define, well, what is consciousness? We're always looking at consciousness while in this world,
Yeah, but there's different levels of consciousness too. Like, we're conscious of this existence right now, but are we conscious of as living in this dimension? We talked about it as a 3-dimensional creature experiencing the 4th dimension in time. That's our current consciousness, is linear action of time rather than the 5th dimension of seeing other dimensions, or the 10th dimension of knowing all possibilities.
Right.
That's a totally different state of consciousness. So where,
What level of consciousness with the artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
how far
like-
can it go? How aware,
is it as conscious as Doctor Strange is? He can see all possibilities. Like one of the movies, he uses his artifact and goes through every one of the future possibilities through all the dimensions of time, and says this is the only way to beat Thanos, or whoever I believe it was Thanos. And he said there's only one of 2 possibilities that we prevail.
And this was, I remember,
And this is one of
them.
This is one of those instances. And that's a completely different state of consciousness, is to understand all of that.
All possibilities they can think of, because in a way, I would say our minds work like that. We don't think about it, but before we get ready to do something, we're quickly analyzing. Hey, what is it that I'm planning on doing? How do I think it's going to work out? We do those calculations quick, and maybe not always as good as other times.
Well, sometimes I'm not thinking, and I just end up like, why did I do that? I never do that. And then all of a sudden something happens, and you're like, oh, I'm meant to be here, kind of thing.
Yeah. I came across complexity theory this week.
Okay.
And got to look into that, and it sort of talks about that. It's I guess when hearing about it, you're familiar with chaos theory.
Mm-hmm.
So complexity theory basically says that complexity is hidden in the chaos, that the design of the universe is actually, everything is super complex. And it happens unconsciously with everyone. Just look, like, we see an ant colony, and it's all the ants are moving around, and we think that they all have orders. They've been told what to do. Not at all what's actually happening. Like the queen is just making babies, and the other ants are all actually just pursuing their own individual goals and whatever they're thinking about. I got to feed myself. I want to go do this. But when we look at it, it looks so ordered, So what level of consciousness do they have? If we could really know what's going on inside an ant's head, we might find that they're a whole lot like us, maybe.
Well, some people think it's like a hive mind, where the queen is
In charge?
like the sole thinker, and the rest are just appendages.
Well, they don't seem to really behave that way. So, like, if you break up, when you see an ants in a line, some of them are in a line, some ants are wandering around, but the ones who are wandering around, they're not lost. They're looking for other food sources, so that when the food runs out from the ones that are in the line,
So they have different orders.
yeah. Well, but once
But
they
the ones
find
in the line are following the pheromone trail.
if you break the line, they'll split off, and some of them will go find other food. Some of them will try to find a path around your foot. But from what I was reading and what about it is, like, we've often always thought about them as like, hive mind or being controlled, but we've never found any evidence to show that they really are. It sort of appears like they're all doing their own thing. When the guy was talking about complexity theory with it, he gave the example of, he saw ants one day, and there were 2 lines of ants. 2 lines heading one direction toward food, 1 line heading the opposite direction back toward the anthill. And shortly after that, he walks, and he's in New York City. And so he gets to the subway, and there at the subway, looking at the steps, there's 2 lines of people. 2 lines going down toward the subway, 1 line coming up the steps away from the subway. None of these people are, there's not like roles or anything to steer them into the path they're in. None of them are thinking about what they're doing.
They're all going
they're
towards
just
the same objective one way or another.
right, it's not planned. They weren't given any orders. They're all doing their own thing. Somebody's going to work, somebody's going home, somebody's going to get food, but they get in line. And and so
I guess that's the natural order of things, is to follow suit.
but through chaos, we get complexity, So I think I say all that to say when we're examining other creatures, sometimes what might appear as complexity to us is really chaos.
Yeah. I guess what chaos theory states that even with the exact same parameters, there can always be a different outcome. And it's because there's so many minor details that we are unaware of, or different forces at play, which would create a different possible outcome.
And the complexity theory said the opposite. So, like with chaos theory, the butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon rainforest and makes a hurricane. Well, what the complexity theory basically says, if the conditions are the same, every time that butterfly flaps its wings in the exact same way, it will always produce a hurricane. And so the complexity theory is basically saying like almost like fractals, or like if you're looking at clouds, just the way it looks. If you're in a plane looking at clouds, the way the clouds look, they're almost like fractals because of the shape of them. It's really hard to tell how far away or how close you are to them, because the closer you get, the more you just see little puffs, And the complexity theory was basically saying it like that. What makes something complex is the fact that it's hard to tell what's coming next. If you can't easily predict what's going to happen next, that's the complexity, where there's and the view of the people who are pushing the complexity theory for looking at chaos theory, they say, well, hey, all these other factors, there might be a whole lot of factors, but most of them don't matter because there's this one fractal thing that keeps playing out. Like he gave another example of starlings, the birds. When we see a flock of birds, it looks like they're all in communication. They're all turning at the same time. But generally speaking, it varies from species to species of bird.
Following one bird?
The birds are generally in communication with about 5 to 7 other birds. So they're each a leader. One bird can decide to turn a little bit, and then they might turn that way. They might not, but they're not really behaving with a hive mind. They're not following one bird. They're all leading, and they're not all in communication with each other. They're just in the communication with the few around them. And he went further of saying, like, even
Sounds like an angry mob.
Yeah, but
that could end badly, or it just goes where it goes.
But when watching it, it looks beautiful and it looks complex. It looks like it's intelligent design behind it has been put into the planning of what they're going to do. And they even gave the example of even within us in our own bodies, it's the same thing. All of our cells are not in communication with one another. The cells in my stomach aren't necessarily in communication with the cells in my arm, and every single cell is doing its own thing, pursuing its own objective, its own goals of what it needs and that sort of thing. And at any given time, any cell can decide to do whatever. And it might change what the overall organism is doing. So I don't know, I thought it was a really cool, beautiful theory of just showing that, like, even though sometimes we see this complexity, really it's just individualized chaos of every individual doing their own thing, and it somehow flows together.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to artificial intelligence, I would bet as we keep developing it, we're going to see it as so much more intelligent than it really might be. It could just be performing simple tasks, but if we see some greater order, we might attribute that greater order to the machine when really maybe it didn't think that far out. So, no, that was a roundabout way of getting there, but yeah.
Yeah.
And given this machine, I think we were all, I know I would, if I saw the machines accomplish something, I would be quick to think, it's the Matrix, they're taking over, shut them down. Shut them all down.
That ties in with the coincidental theory of life, is that it's all chaotic, and I'm not sure I buy into the total chaos. That I believe that there's more of a plan and nudging and corralling of humans and way of thought and order of things. It's all, if not planned by a higher power, but some sort of more powerful government or society that we don't know about.
Well, I think they nudge us, but I don't know that it's even possible for another human or even a human group to be in charge, to be truly in charge. I think maybe if they have a better understanding of humans, you can nudge us and steer us in ways that we might not subconsciously pick up on. But the overall herd moving, the overall flock moving through the sky, how could anyone control something like that when you have, as like chaos theory says, you have so many factors playing in, and you just don't know what's going to lead to what. How could anyone ever truly steer it?
Okay. Well, guys, thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or you can email us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com. Give us questions, comments, suggestions. If you want to disprove any of our theories or talk smack, feel free to message us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com.
Send us cool stuff to look into.